Welcome to our continuing series, Questions and Answers for a World in Crisis. Part 1, Devotion. Mother has revealed the significance of Tulsi, botanically Ocimum sanctum, having the common names Ram Tulsi and Krishna Tulsi, as devotion, and she comments, modest and fragrant, it gives itself without seeking for anything in return. Here are some quotations from the Mother on devotion. A devotion that keeps concentrated and silent in the depths of the heart, but manifests in acts of service and obedience, is more powerful, more true, more divine than any shouting and weeping devotion. Sincere devotion is much more effective than the Ganges water. Yes, devotion is all very well, but unless it is accompanied by many other things, it too may make many mistakes. It may meet with great difficulties. You have devotion, and you keep your ego. And then your ego makes you do all sorts of things out of devotion, things which are terribly egoistic. That is to say, you think only of yourself, not of others, nor of the world, nor of the work, nor of what ought to be done. You think only of your devotion, and you become tremendously egoistic. And so, when you find out that the divine, for some reason, does not answer to your devotion with the enthusiasm you expected of him, you despair and fall back into the same 3 difficulties I was just speaking about. But there is another movement which should constantly accompany devotion. That kind of sense of gratitude that the divine exists. That feeling of a marveling thankfulness which truly fills you with a sublime joy at the fact that the divine exists. That there is something in the universe which is the divine. That it is not just the monstrosity we see, that there is the divine exists. And each time that the least thing puts you either directly or indirectly in contact with this sublime reality of divine existence, the heart is filled with so intense, so marvelous a joy, such a gratitude, as of all things has the most delightful taste. There is nothing which gives you a joy equal to that of gratitude. One hears a bird sing, sees a lovely flower, looks at a little child, observes an act of generosity, reads a beautiful sentence, looks at the setting sun, no matter what, suddenly this comes upon you, this kind of emotion, indeed so deep, so intense, that the world manifests the divine, that there is something behind the world which is the divine. So I find that devotion without gratitude is quite incomplete. Gratitude must come with devotion. But the central trend is this, that it is preferable to have one moment of sincerity rather than a long life of apparent devotion, and that a psychological and spiritual victory over oneself is more important than all external victories. Question to the mother. Sweet mother, what is meant by the yoga of devotion and the yoga of knowledge? Mother, the yoga of knowledge is the path that leads to the divine through the exclusive pursuit of the pure and absolute truth. The yoga of devotion is the path that leads to union with the divine through perfect, total, and eternal love. In the integral yoga of Sri Aurobindo, the two combine with the yoga of works and the yoga of self-perfection to make a homogeneous whole, culminating in the yoga of supramental realization. There are intellectual ways which may be called sentimental, artistic ways, and spiritual ways. And generally, it is preferable for each one to take the way that is easiest for him. For if one wants to begin straight away with the most difficult, one comes to nothing at all. And here we always come back to the same thing, to what Sri Aurobindo describes in the synthesis of yoga. It is the way of knowledge, or the way of devotion, or the way of works. To work, to act with devotion and an inner consecration is also a spiritual discipline. The final aim is to be in constant union with the divine, not only in meditation, but in all circumstances and in all active life. How beautiful is the day when one can offer one's devotion to Sri Aurobindo. Be sure that I am quite aware of the growing love and devotion in you, and they meet with the full response they can duly expect, with my love and blessings. There are a good number of workers who have worked for me for many long years and have served me with devotion and faithfulness, and who, besides considering me as their employer, have also looked to me as their protector of them and their families. One concentrates at the samadhi to grow in devotion and to put oneself in contact with Sri Aurobindo in order to receive his help. And then there are those who have an innate faculty of gratitude, those who have an ardent need to respond with warmth, devotion, joy, to something which they feel like a marvel hidden behind the whole of life, behind the tiniest little element, the least little event of life, who feel this sovereign beauty or infinite grace which is behind all things. In silence lies the greatest devotion. Those two things must be achieved to be able to be what may be called Superman, not to tell lies and to control oneself. A complete devotion to the divine is the last condition. But these are the first two things to be achieved. Namaste.